3,872 water drops I've made and gifted so far, guys. Good morning. Welcome back to the Glassman's World. I'm Dan the Glassman, and we're going to talk about the drop of water. So, this weekend is the Gathering of Nations powwow, guys. It is the largest powwow, I believe, in the world, not just in the nation, but in the world. And everyone from all nations, different indigenous, native tribes, people from all over the world gather. They come from all the way from Australia, New Zealand, from Canada, South America. Like, there are so many different individual tribes and groups that come from all over the world to the Gathering of Nations, and they descend upon here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, literally right up the street from me at Tingley Coliseum. I'm pretty much right off of Southern and Louisiana, and the state fairgrounds is at Louisiana and at Central, basically like 4 blocks away. But then it's a good walk, you got to go through the parking lot and everything. So the very first Gathering of Nations I've ever been to, the very first powwow that I ever went to was the Gathering of Nations powwow in 2017. And that's what started it all, guys. That's where we started making a lot of friends and finding a lot of individuals had dedicated their lives to protecting water. And so we started gifting out the drop of water to many different individuals who basically were uh, then known and now known as water protectors. A lot of individuals were asked to be part of a special presentation at the 2017 Gathering of Nations powwow, which was known as the Buffalo Dance. And the Buffalo Dance, put together by Emergence Productions, and this individual brought together all 19 pueblos from New Mexico for the first time in 400 years, I believe, to all dance together. For the first time in 400 years, to all dance together to dance the Buffalo Dance. This was a very special ceremony. It was a huge tribute, a huge honor to be there. And the Buffalo Dance was to honor the buffalo, of course, the buffalo there up in Standing Rock, to honor the water protectors, to honor Standing Rock, and to honor the whole entire No DAPL movement. The No DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, DAPL, was being rerouted through the U.S. engineers or whatever who came in and decided that they were going to basically trample upon indigenous land up there at Standing Rock in North Dakota, which they should have a um, sovereign jurisdiction over their own land. And the Dakota Access Pipeline was being rerouted to be rebuilt through their land, and not only through their land, but through the water, their water source, and also through sacred burial land, which was the biggest thing that was so disgusting. And when they started bringing in police officers and security guards to stop the tribe that lives there at their own home, to stop them from trying to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline from being built through their burial sites, through graveyards, gravestones, guys. And so that's what Standing Rock was all about. Dakota Access Pipeline was built around Standing Rock beforehand, And in 2016, they decided that they were going to, I don't know what it is, the National Corps of Engineers, U.S. Corps of Engineers, whatever it was, they decided they were going to build the Dakota Access Pipeline through the Standing Rock, Oglala Sioux Tribe Nation's land. And it was a horrible, horrendous event. And it was also blacked out by the media. So a lot of people didn't know about Standing Rock and what had occurred over there. When I first saw what was going on, it was because of social media, because of individuals such as myself who will report on certain things and then upload it. And so we had a bunch of individuals who were up there at Standing Rock who started using their cameras as a way of being able to project what was going on up there. And it went from uh, a few hundred or maybe even like a couple thousand people there to hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions of people that gathered there or at least descended upon Standing Rock. There were many individuals who were only able to go for one weekend, but yet they still went. They took supply, they took water, food, warm clothing and blankets and things like that, shelters, tents, tarps, whatever was necessary, firewood, even just their own songs and drums, and their own prayer. And Standing Rock became this huge standoff right here on our own land and U.S. soil, where they were utilizing the National Guard, the Army, the police, law enforcement. They were utilizing our own military against our own people. We had a war here, basically. They didn't use any sort of um, weapons of mass destruction, I guess, but they were using weapons of destruction that was causing illnesses. They put what is it called, Razol, which is like I think a rat poison. They put it in the water and the food supply. They poisoned eagles with it in buffalo. I heard that they poisoned the buffalo and then offered the buffalo meat to the tribe, which was accepted. And that got a lot of people sick. There are a lot of people now who went to Standing Rock that have come out with cancer or different other issues and things. So the very first feed that I ever saw that really got me involved was the day when they brought out the security guards, and they were had the security guards basically standing guard on the burial site, and the people of the land were there lined up in protest, trying to stop them, telling them to stop, and the security guards were armed um, with canines, with dogs, with guard dogs, and these guard dogs were ferocious. They were so bad that in some instances, those guard dogs even turned on their own security and bit them, bit their own men. That's how out of control that this situation was. They had the dogs attacking women and children, and men were there. And when I saw that on TV, my heart, my soul was pulled there. I wanted to be there because something in me wanted to fight back. I wanted to be there to help fight against the security guards and everyone who was there. But in my mind, I was thinking like some very, very violent ways and things. And the way of the Oglala Sioux tribe was not to use any sort of violence, but to only use prayer and to keep praying for the enemies. Keep praying for those who do not understand how to live in unity and harmony together here. and so not being able to go to Standing Rock, I had my own personal issues on why I couldn't go. My daughter, I had to have a court battle to make sure that I didn't lose custody of my child. And so that was extremely important to me. So I did not go to Standing Rock. I had to stay here and fight for my child, which, that worked out beautifully. I now have 50-50 time with my child once again, which is beautiful. And her mother and I actually now are able to get along and things are good. At the same time, allows me to continue to stay protected away from all the poisons and the onslaught when they were spraying everyone with the water in the very cold days, like especially like around Thanksgiving time in November, and it was freezing cold up in North Dakota. You got to remember it's snow and ice up in North Dakota around that time in November, and they were spraying the crowds with water, which then, people were freezing. And they also were using rubber bullets. But rubber in the freezing cold doesn't stay soft and rubbery. It becomes hard. It becomes a hard projectile. And so they utilized the snow. They put the bullets in the snow to make them hard. The rubber bullets. It is supposed to be non-lethal. We heard that people lost their eyes. At least two people that I know of, Marcus and Susie. Um, one individual, they used some sort of I don't know, like a flash bomb, a bang, flash bang. Who passed away. Interesting. When I start speaking of these things, then I get a connection failure. So that means some things are going to get edited out. We're going to lose part of the story here. It's always interesting when I start talking about these sort of things that then I get a connection problem. That's really interesting, YouTube, how that just randomly happens when I'm speaking of important things like the drop of water and the whole Dakota Access Pipeline going through Standing Rock and what they did with the rubber bullets and the water and how they put the rat poisoning into the water and into different things to and including having crop dusters spraying them from up above. This all happened. This was all documented. Um, our own people and many others who came from many different countries, people from all over the world descended upon Standing Rock. Like I said, there was at least hundreds of thousands to like maybe even a million people were there throughout the whole entire time. Hey, good morning, Austin. Hello, good morning, Austin. So sorry about that. My computer just did a refresh. This computer is so dumb. I'm over here thinking that I'm getting shut down possibly by YouTube for speaking on this topic, and it's my own computer. So good morning. Hopefully you're still here and everyone's watching and the stream is going. So I don't really know what I was talking about when the stream cut. I don't know how far I got into the story before I realized that my hand wasn't moving on the screen anymore. I was like, wait, I'm frozen. I've been frozen for like a minute now. So speaking of the Gathering of Nations powwow, I was talking about November and the coldest days around the time of Thanksgiving when people were freezing. It was a very brutal, harsh time. They were using rubber bullets, but the rubber bullets weren't rubber anymore. They were really solid. So, for non-lethal projectiles, they could have really been lethal at that point. Um, they were spraying people with water, and then, like I said, they were using the razor, the rat poison. They put in the water, and they were spraying people from the crop dusting up above, and then they had poisoned buffalo, they poisoned eagle, and with the razor, you know, they were able to find out after veterinarians or whoever did some sort of test. I guess you wouldn't take a buffalo to a veterinarian, right? Maybe an eagle. I don't know. They figured that out somehow. The other thing too is when individuals were getting sprayed with that water, a lot of people were saying that they would taste a very sweet taste on their lips, on their skin, which, you know, if you understand how poisoning works, if you make someone to where they're tasting something over and over, and they like, if it's something sweet, they're going to continue to lick it off their lips and wonder, what is that? What is that? Right? Not thinking that they just got poisoned. And so that happened a lot. There's a lot of individuals who now have cancer, being up there at Standing Rock. Hundreds of thousands, maybe even a million people came down. I got to meet Andre, who was one of the cooks in one of the kitchens. You know, you got to remember that this was a huge gathering. That was the largest gathering of people protesting against the Dakota Access Pipeline and trying to stop the National Corps of Engineers from building through their sacred burial land and through the water there, and trying to get the president to stop this action because it was illegal. The permits weren't even given to them, and they were already breaking ground. That's the thing, is that the permits weren't even okayed at that point, and yet the Dakota Access Pipeline was already digging into the burial grounds, into their sacred land there. So during that time, like I said, I started watching probably around, I don't know, October, September, October, before November. By November, I was already watching and had invested time into what was going on and really paying attention to the different streams that were coming through. And then you had a lot of drone footage, like the digital smoke signals with Myron Dewey, rest in peace, brother, with other individuals who were part of the Drones to Be Wild crew, like Shazay, and other individuals who are, other drone pilots who flew around. And they were able to capture a lot of footage from up above and a lot of the different things that were going on. I got to meet and gift Bravo 1, who was the individual who disarmed Kyle Thomas, who he came in. Apparently, he was working with the security team, and he basically was like a spy. Came in and started dating one of the native ladies, Red Fawn, and he somehow infiltrated into Standing Rock, and I guess he came in one time and he was fully armed, and they didn't know what his intentions were and what was going on. And there's footage of this where Bravo 1 went into the water with Kyle Thomas, and with many others all around him. And Kyle Thomas was scared for his life, but he didn't have to be, because those who were there, part of the protests and the actions against Dakota Access Pipeline, they were there in prayer, in peaceful prayer. They weren't armed. No one was getting injured in those ways from the water protector side. They were just in peaceful prayer. But then there was the incident with Kyle Thomas coming in with his AK, and Kyle Thomas, being a former military vet, he was able to go in and disarm him. It was a very scary, real video. I think you can still find it. I have a playlist for Standing Rock, and it's probably in there. I have like 1,000 playlists probably at this point. I don't know how many playlists I have. Like, seriously, I have hundreds, probably. But Standing Rock is one of the playlists that I have. And Kyle Thomas getting disarmed by Bravo 1. I was able to meet Bravo 1 and gift him. That was a huge honor. He was one of the first individuals that I was able to meet and gift. So 3,872 water protectors I've been able to personally keep track of that we've gifted. And I wasn't the only one who's gifted. I had a friend of mine, Orlando Cruz, who's a singer, a drummer, artist, and water protector. He was up there at Standing Rock. He was the one who actually let me know who was there with him at Standing Rock at the Pueblo camp, which was everyone from New Mexico. The New Mexico Pueblos, like I said, 19 different Pueblos were all gathered together for the Buffalo Dance for the first time in 400 years. So these Pueblos were up at Standing Rock, and they had a camp called Pueblo Camp where they all hung out. So a lot of people from New Mexico all gathered together up there. A lot of water protectors. And so, on the first day I met Orlando, he told me at least 7 individuals that needed to be gifted, plus Bravo 1. And that was the first day of gifting out the drop of water. And in that way, to water protectors from Standing Rock. And then a week later, Orlando comes back with a list of 80 individuals that he can recall who was there with them at a Pueblo camp. And then that's when the gifting of the drop of water really began. And then I started making them by the dozen, and I would do this thing where I would sit here and I'd fill up my whole entire pad right here. This is a 6x6 pad, and I fill this up, and I'd get 36 across. I'd get 4 rows, a little bit of space on the bottom, but not enough for another row. But my number, which is on my arm, that's upside down. It's not an ohm. I can't flip my arm around to show you what it is, but it's a 37 for my band, Element 37, but it looks like the ohm with the Zia to represent New Mexico. Our flag is the Zia. I'm not Zia Pueblo, and I apologize to Zia Pueblo for utilizing your sacred symbol, the sun symbol. I had the tattoo put on before realizing what had occurred with your sacred symbol and how it was stolen from you and utilized for our flag here in New Mexico. But many New Mexicans associate the Zia symbol with New Mexico, but really it's to represent the Zia Pueblo, the Zia tribe. So I give my humble apologies for my ignorance and putting it on my body without being a part of the Zia. I don't know, maybe you'll adopt me in. I could come do some work for you or something. So the Gathering of Nations 2017, friends of mine, after Orlando and I Oh well, that was after the whole Gathering Nation. So before Orlando and I met, the Gathering Nations powwow, which is ascending upon us this weekend here. Like I said, the largest gathering of nations, of tribal nations from all over the world coming to Albuquerque here this weekend. In 2017, that was the first powwow I had ever went to. Friends of mine from Acoma Pueblo here in New Mexico were asked to be part of the Buffalo Dance. And my friend, who is a beautiful, amazing artist, he actually painted this piece right here. He does a lot of different types of artwork and things like that. But he, sorry, now I just messed up the whole angle. But he was the one who invited me out to the Gathering Nations powwow. He invited me to join them on the floor there. And, for weeks before that, him and his wife would come into town from Acoma Pueblo, which is also known as Sky City. And they would come into town, and he would drop her off at school. She had some classes here at like CNM, and he would drop her off. Sometimes she'd come visit beforehand or afterward, but he would drop her off, and then he'd come hang out for a couple hours while she was in her classes, and then he'd go pick her up, and I would just be outside working, blowing glass, and during that time, I was already making water drops because I was invited to a silent auction in November of 2016, where that's where the drop of water was basically bestowed upon me, and the idea came to me to make just a clear pendant with nothing in it, no mushroom, no flower, no spiral, no color, just a straight up clear pendant to be a teardrop shape or a water drop shape. And so, since November of 2016, I had started making them. They were invited by probably February or March to be a part of this. So then he was telling me about it and how they had to learn the song for the Buffalo Dance, and they had to learn the dance. So they were doing all these practices and everything. And during that time, while the Gathering of Nations was getting prepared, and Emergence Productions was preparing all of the 19 pueblos from New Mexico to gather together and learn this dance and song, the tribute of the Buffalo Dance. In that time, my friend, when he was coming down, realized that I was making these water drops, and he went to the individual who was putting this all together. They had to go and get basically tribal permission, like it wasn't just one tribe, but they all had to agree upon it. And they asked if they could wear something that would represent water. I didn't know at the time that they were asking about wearing the drop of water, wearing the water drop that I was making, which I didn't even know why I was still making them. I didn't go to Standing Rock. The reason why I made it was for the silent auction that I was invited to in November, and that silent auction was over, but something told me to continue to make these still, to make something over and over again that represents water. And so I did so. That's the message I got clearly in my mind, to make something that is a symbol of water that I can replicate over and over again. And the drop of water appeared in my mind, but the first ones were cobalt, and they were dark. So then we started making them out of clear glass. And my friends from Acoma Pueblo wore the clear drop of water. But the first ones that I had made and sold and made and gifted were all cobalt blue. But by the time we were involved in the Gathering of Nations in 2017, they became clear. So, yeah, they began as cobalt because I was thinking, blue, water, right? But then when we went inside, anytime you'd wear the cobalt blue water drop indoor, it looked black. And then to me, that was like, it was like the oil was in the water. And we didn't want that. We didn't want the oil in the water. That's why we didn't want the Dakota Access Pipeline built through sacred water, through sacred burial grounds. And then the Dakota Access Pipeline is one oil pipeline of many. There's the Keystone Access Pipeline, the Baton Rouge Pipeline, Line 6, Line 3. There's so many different oil pipelines that were being protested against. But Standing Rock was like the one that it didn't get media coverage, maybe a little bit, but it's really interesting. So yeah, this journey has been an amazing journey. 8 years, eight represents infinity, and so oh yeah, so a tiny so okay, so I love that we were making them with the cobalt blue. I love working with cobalt blue glass. And so here, let's actually do that. So let me see if I can find some cobalt. Here's some cobalt. So this basically is about the size that I would use to make the original water drop. The very first water drops, or what the brand it named, the drop of water. The very first ones were actually a lot smaller than what I make now. And I started because I started making them in cobalt, and then we went to clear to represent the clean drinking water, because the drop of water represents clean drinking water for all. And so that's pretty much what I focus on, is clean drinking water for all generations, for generations now and all generations, future generations to come. We need to really focus on how we can create clean drinking water, how we can stop polluting it ourselves, stop using those chemicals and things in our homes and putting it down the drain, letting it just be out of sight, out of mind, right? So we can all become water protectors ourselves. And so with the cobalt blue water drop then being phased out, I mean, I can make the cobalt blue drop. If anyone wants the drop of water in cobalt blue, I can do that. But because I love working with cobalt blue, and I loved, it was the one that started it all. I ended up adding a little line, as you can see right there. There's a little line right there. I don't know if you can really see it, but I drew it on there. There's a line of cobalt blue on there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to simply twist it up here. And so I ended up turning them into spiral. So then I created the next version of the drop of water. So the very first one was the cobalt blue, right? And then we started making them in clear. And then we started making them like this, where we just add a little line of color on one side. Excuse me. And then I would spiral it up like this. And these take a little bit longer, but I still sell these ones also for $10. The clear ones, they're a very simple piece of glass. I sell them for $10, even though they don't have anything in them. No mushroom, spiral, no flower, no nothing. it's what they represent that's very important. So the drop of water basically has become a mission now. So instead of just being a glass blower, I now have a cause. I've now turned my artistry, my glass art, into a cause to where we can speak on clean drinking water for all, how we can utilize filtration systems, how we can get away from toxic chemicals and use companies like Norwex, where they use nothing but water to remove bacteria from surfaces, from your body, from surfaces in your home. My wife sells that now because we are a family of water protectors. But I got into that, gosh, back in like 2018 because of this whole water is life movement and the drop of water. I was invited to a Earth Day event eventually in 2018. And then I saw someone who was selling this product, found out what it was about, decided, hey, that's kind of what I need so I could save my gray water when I was living up at Camp Two Dogs with a bunch of other water protectors. And we needed a way to be able to use our gray water from our dishes and feed that water to our plants because we were going to start growing a big old garden and have like trees with fruit and stuff growing. But we needed to get rid of like the Ajax, the Palmolive, the Dawn, the dish soap. We needed to get rid of the dish soap. So using Norwex to clean your dishes with only water, that was the cure. That was the solution. I was like, oh man, that's awesome. So I'm a huge environmentalist. I've always been an environmentalist. That's why when I saw what was going on at Standing Rock, it pulled me in. It wasn't that I became an environmentalist because of Standing Rock. I was already an environmentalist long before. You know, when the BP oil spill happened, I was talking about that. You know, so it wasn't that the Standing Rock and all of that and the Buffalo Dance created me into this environmentalist. I was already here, and it just I naturally went with it. So after creating the clear one, the cobalt one, then we started making these. As you can see, take a little bit longer because I have to spiral them, then I have to melt them all the way down, and then I have to spiral up. Right now I'm stretching the loop, and I got to spiral the loop as I'm stretching it. So I'm spinning it, stretching it, making sure that we bend it perfectly, make sure that that color travels up into the loop, and then there's always a little bit of extra. So we got to get rid of that little excess there so that one doesn't stay. When we make the next one, we got to have a clean slate. So then we started making these, which are basically a mixture of the cobalt blue with the clear. And I sell these also for $10, 3 for $20. If anyone's ever interested, I also wholesale them. I probably can't wholesale these as low as the clear ones, but close enough. I could probably get them down to where you can still triple your money and make $10 on each one as well. So if you're interested in becoming part of this movement with the drop of water, and you want to help to spread the good news of water, water is life, every drop counts, why we all need clean drinking water, the importance of drinking water, you know, how it keeps us healthier and fit, um, you know, it keeps us hydrated. Learning about, you know, my rule of thumb, as we spoke about last time, was the taking your body weight. If you're 150 pounds, you cut that in half, divide it by 2, or cut it in half, which would be 75. And 75 ounces of water would be your goal if you're 150 pounds. So if you're 120, then 60 ounces. if you're a little child at 90, then 45 ounces. Babies don't need much water at all. Also, you have to remember, water doesn't come just from water. You get your water sources from food, from fruit, things like that. So yeah, the drop of water has been around for 8 years now, since the Gathering of Nations, but a little bit longer than that, because I started making them in November. So it's been an amazing journey for 8 years now. I can't believe that I've made over 3,872 of these, which I've been able to gift them. Gifting means that we just gave them away for free to just thank that individual water protector or group of water protectors. There's even families who went up to Standing Rock together. One of the very first families that I ever met was a mother and her children, and they all went up to Standing Rock to protest and to stand up for clean drinking water. You have to remember that Standing Rock started because of the children walking all the way from North Dakota all the way to Washington, D.C. to go try to speak to President Obama at the time, and nothing was done. Everyone all likes to look at him as a hero or whatever, but if you really understand what's going on, he is as evil as the rest, and maybe even more so. So yeah, so the drop of water, 8 years, 3,872 of these that I've been able to keep track of personally. But there's been individuals who have purchased hundreds of these at a time off me, and they've gifted their own, and I did not keep track of their numbers. So there's a lot more of the drop of water that's been gifted out to individuals from all over the world, celebrities, uh, regular individuals that, unknown individuals who have just had the same drive to fight for clean drinking water as others. Politicians have been gifted. The drop of water was possibly in the White House recently when we gifted Deb Haaland. All over the world, to different groups, from like the Maori from New Zealand, and individuals from different groups there, from groups from Canada, a tribe called Red, NRG Rising from New Zealand, um, Jason Miraz, he was there at Standing Rock. Carlos Santana was a friend of someone who was up at Standing Rock. We ended up gifting Carlos Santana as well for his involvement with the children with cancer. So that was something different. It was just a gift to gift them. Who else was gifted? Dave Matthews Band, Knuckle Bear, Medicine Tribe for the People. A lot of different individuals, a lot of celebrities, a lot of just regular individuals, daily life individuals, but people who put water in their forefront in their life to fight for clean drinking water for all. And that's the beauty of what happened there, was that there was a common ground that everyone stood for. Everyone wants clean drinking water. I mean, the only reason why you don't want clean drinking water is because you're utilizing the clean water to make profits, right? Profits over people, always, right? You got to always maximize your profits, right? We all want to maximize our profits. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I could make more money working less, I would love to do that, right? Everyone would rather be earning more per hour or per job or whatever. But, you know, there's a cap, there's a limit on some things, right? I mean, unless you're a billionaire, then you get paid big bucks to do nothing. But you know, us normal daily life folk who's struggling every day on EBT and trying to just barely make ends meet and pay rent, it's really hard to be able to sit here and dedicate time, my day, my energy, my raw material and supply, and be able to just simply give it away. When I sell these at $10 each, and you think about the retail cost of how many I've personally gifted, 3,872. Well, that would be $38,000 in glass that I've gifted. But I can't afford that. And yet somehow God, Creator, has been able to bless me with being able to afford to do so. This is my devotional service, and what I do is just simply thanking individuals for doing what we're all supposed to be doing, which is supposed to be guardians and stewards of this vessel, of this planet, to be protecting that water, to protect the land, to protect the animals, other living creatures, and protect the food and the food supply. We're supposed to protect each other. We're supposed to be guardians and stewards of this vessel, which includes us, ourselves as well. And many of us have forgotten that because we're all about profit over people. We are all about maximizing our profits and forgetting that sometimes we need to be able to help out one another. We need to be able to encourage one another. We need to do these things in a way of being able to give ourselves back to each other, right? So yeah, $38,000 in glass. I can't afford that, but somehow Creator has afforded me to do so, and I'm still doing so. And this weekend, we're going to be gifting out many more water to water protectors from all over the world, water guardians. That's right, water warriors. So this weekend, if you're here for the Gathering of Nations powwow and you find me, I may be set up at Polite Smoke Shop tomorrow for her Spark It Market, which they've been selling these bomb Indian tacos over there. Amazing Indian tacos. I actually heard they had THC honey last time, and I didn't know that when I was there. I would have got myself a fry bread on the side and just drenched it with that THC honey. But yeah, I think that there's going to be some of my native brothers and sisters posted up over there at the Spark It Market tomorrow, which is I think from like 10 to 4, maybe 10 to 6, something like that. And then on Sunday, I'll be at the Nob Hill East Market there off of Route 66, Solano and Central Avenue, right there in the heart of Nob Hill. And we're there every Sunday, except I wasn't there last Sunday because it was Easter. But they were there. I didn't even realize they were setting up. So come find me. I will be out and about. I'm probably not going to the Gathering of Nations looking for water protectors because it's way too expensive. It's like, I don't know, like $30 to get in per person. And that's for children too. I don't think they even have a children's ticketed price. Like, it's ridiculous. Children should be free, or $5, $10. And then adults, whatever, 20, $30. Man, it should be like $10 per person and children free. You want to have people gather and they're just, I don't know. I heard that the owners of the Gathering of Nations, the people who manage it and run it, they may not be so native themselves, and they may just be millionaires making money off of this gathering. The individual may have figured out a loophole to get in. The contestants that come in to do their dancing and their drumming, they all pay a certain entry fee, and you got hundreds of thousands of entries. They're making millions of dollars. They're charging, like, I I don't know how much it is. I think it's a few $100, $800, $1,000 for a booth to vend for 2 days. It's like $500 per day per booth. I could not afford that. So I won't be at the gathering. I mean, it's a possibility that maybe I just show up. Maybe I'll go check out some of the bands and the music. That's one of my favorite things, to check out, um, what is it, the Electric 49 stage. They have live bands that come out and they perform on the outside of the Coliseum of Tingley Coliseum. All right, well, I'm going to let you guys go. It's been about an hour now. And I just wanted to talk about the Drop of Water and the 8 years that we've been involved. I used to have the dropofwater.com, but during COVID, I ignorantly let it go. I just mistakenly let it go. I was not paying attention to my emails, and for months I didn't get the email warning to say you need to renew your domain name or you're going to lose it, and I lost it. So now it belongs to China. If you go to the dropofwater.com, it's some sort of a Chinese gambling site now, which sucks. But I'm possibly going to revamp the Drop of Water on a different website. I'm really like trying to figure out, what do I want to do? Where do I want to put my energy? I've got myself in so many different places. And I'm just wondering if instead of having a website for the Drop of Water, maybe what I need is just a centralized hub for the Glassman's World, to where then you could just come and find anything and everything that pertains to me, which would then include my glass, and having some sort of a gallery or a shop that you could then purchase from, which would then have mini shops inside of it, which would, include the Drop of Water, include the glass balloons, the hot air balloons, include the UFO pipe, the original $5 mushrooms that we make. That's only $5. I make these for 10. They're clear. This is only 5. It's weird, but it's all because anytime you purchase the Drop of Water for $10 or 3 for 20, you're actually helping the cause of gifting. So then basically by selling them for that, I'm trying to offset the cost, but I've gifted out more than I've sold. So there's no way at this point in time that I'm ever going to be able to offset the cost. I'm just, like I said, Creator somehow affords me to be able to just continue to make more and to make more. All right, so there's a row of 8 clear, and then the one, the blue one. Let's see, that's cool enough to touch. So this is the one with the blue spiral. I don't know if you can really see that. I wish that I had my camera on my phone working, so then I could zoom in and stuff. But yeah, that's the clear one with the blue spiral. And then you're asking, have I ever made one that looks like Gatorade? I'm like, yellow, dude, making yellow water drops. You're not supposed to eat the yellow snow, right? But seriously, I have at least a dozen different varieties of water drops. I've got the cobalt blue, you got the clear ones, you got the clear with the blue, right? You got the clear with the blue, and then you got then I have a white and clear, which is to represent the coldest times around Thanksgiving, around the time when they were utilizing the water and spraying people down in the freezing cold and using the snow for the rubber bullets to harm and injure people, right? So then I started using white, which that represented water is ice. So then I have the white ones, which I don't have them all in front of me. I wish I should have probably brought them all out to then show you all the different varieties of the Drop of Water. Then we have a red drop, which we started making a solid red water drop, which was supposed to represent the missing, murdered indigenous women. Um, but then an individual decided to purchase them off of me, put them up in Canada, and I had them at the same price, really really cheap, really affordable. And he decided to resell them for $50 each instead of 10. Which I was like, wait, I'm selling mine for 10 retail. How are you going to get $50 each for these? And then individuals who are part of the missing, murdered indigenous women's groups saw what he was doing, and thought that he was making a huge profit off of their plight, off of what they were going through. And then it backlashed to me, and they told me like to cease and desist and to not make these and sell them for $50 each. And I was like, well, I'm not selling them for 50. I sell mine for 10. At the time, I think I was selling mine for 20. I've recently dropped them, I believe, to 10, 3 for 20 still. And yeah, excuse me. I ended up having to stop making those for a while. I brought them back. They now represent the blood of the people. It's what connects us all. It's what makes us all brothers and sisters through Creator is our blood. We're all connected in that way. Our DNA is all the same. There may be a few little tags and differences in protein signatures and stuff in our DNAs, but pretty much we're all the same. We all got the human DNA. So we have those, the cobalt blue, the clear, the blue spiral, the white spiral, the solid red. Then we did a red spiral. Then we did an orange spiral, which is to represent all the children that were found up in Canada underneath the Catholic schools, and in the yards, in the fields, the playgrounds of the Catholic schools. And they found all the children that were buried there. You know, when they were stolen and taken and forced into boarding schools, you know, taken away from their families and their tribes. And then basically they were forced into indoctrinated, becoming Americanized. And then, so then we have the orange to represent the children that were stolen in the boarding school, and those that were found buried at the Catholic schools at the border in Canada. And then, of course, we have them here as well. And then, gosh, I think those are the different spirals that we have. Then we have a green one, a solid green one, which is to represent all the green vegetation, because all plants and all green vegetation, they need water too. And then we've made an amber water drop, which is known as the honey drop, because bees need honey too. I've made an earth drop, which is basically a cobalt blue. So we're going back and reverting back to the cobalt blue drop, but then adding green color and hand drawing continents onto the cobalt blue drop to make an earth drop. Those ones are a little bit more expensive because they're all hand drawn. They're all one of a kind. I have to draw each continent by hand on a little tiny drop. So I have the earth drop, and I believe that's all of them. There might be a couple more. Oh, then there's the medicine colors with the red, yellow, black, and white. I've made some of those. And then people have just been calling these the mushroom water drops, which they're just mushrooms. But I sell these ones for $5, but they still call them water drops with mushrooms in them. I guess, yeah, even mushrooms need water too, right? But those are the original $5 mushroom. Has nothing to do with the drop of water, but some individuals have deemed it as such, and they're proud to wear them as such. You know, there's individuals that I've gifted, that I've even named in here, who they then turned their backs on me and they decided to become my enemy when I don't have enemies. I personally don't have any enemies, but if they want to become my enemy or make me their enemy, well, that's on them. That's their experience. Like everyone here is my brother and sister. We're all friends, but even brothers and sisters sometimes don't get along, and you got to live in different separate rooms, separate homes, even in separate states. But we're all family and we're all connected in that way. And why? Because we are all drops of water in this vast ocean of life. Water is life. Every drop counts. We all count, every one of us. So that's the story of the drop of water, at least a very shortened version of it. I mean, like I said, we've been doing this for 8 years now. There's many, many different stories of the different um, gatherings and ceremonies we went to, different sweats, different actions and protests, different places that I moved to and lived, different things that just occurred. In the last 8 years, it's been an amazing journey. We've kind of backed off away from the drop of water during COVID and stuff. Like I said, I lost the dropofwater.com, and I'm deciding if I'm going to revamp it as its own website, or because it's just a lot of work for me to have to then manage two different websites when I could just put it all up on one. We can have it. The drop of water can have its own page and its own story there. Um, what's sad is that on Facebook, starting next month, coming up soon, June 1st, I believe they're going to start erasing and deleting all of our live streams. So all of those streams from Standing Rock, if they haven't been downloaded and put up onto YouTube or other different platforms at this time, like the whole disarming of Kyle Thomas by Bravo One. If those videos have not been uploaded yet to YouTube or other different platforms, or just downloaded to someone's hard drive, they're gone forever. There's a website called archive.com or .org or something like that, where I believe we can archive everything and it just stays there forever. But I don't know how they can do that, because I'm sure they run out of server space as well. But other than that, there's not much more I can tell you unless I just keep on rambling on about this, because like I said, there's so much that happened in 8 years. I do want to thank my friends from Acoma Pueblo, Afi and Daniel. Thank you so much for bringing me into the Gathering of Nations of Powwow 2017 for the special presentation of the Buffalo Dance. Thank you to everyone else who was part of the Enchanted Dancers, the Pueblo Enchanted or Pueblo Enchantment Dancers. Everyone who was there with my friends, the 19 individuals that I first gifted out. Thank you so much for inviting me there, to inviting me to be part of the ceremonies with, things that are very sacred, like where you're changing into your regalia, getting prepared for the Buffalo Dance and things like that. Very sacred. I'm extremely honored to have been a part of all these experiences. It's humbled me deeply to a point to, like I said, I had to apologize for my tattoo and what I did with the Zia. And, Acoma has basically adopted me and invited me. I still have yet to visit Sky City and go visit my friends. But we have a vehicle this year, and maybe this year could be the first year that I can go spend Christmas, and I hear it's beautiful during Christmas in Sky City. So, and then Feast Day will be coming up soon, I'm pretty sure. So I'll be speaking with my friend Daniel. He reached out to me a few days ago, so I'll reach out to him, see how he's been doing. And with that, I just want to tell you, thank you all so much, all you water protectors who are out there, dedicated your lives, or at least a portion of your lives, to helping to fight for clean drinking water for all, to helping to fight against the different oil pipelines that have desecrated land and water. We tried to warn them, and ever since then, how many times did the Dakota Access Pipeline spill and leak ever since they built it? The pipeline was built, and everyone who was there standing in protest was evicted, removed from Standing Rock, including those who were part of the Standing Rock, the Oglala Sioux tribe. But of course, there are also other individuals who were there and stayed there because that is their home. But the protests, the actions, those ceased and desist. They stopped. And the pipeline was built, and the pipeline leaked like we were warning everyone about. And tens of thousands, maybe even at this point, hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil has seeped into the earth and into different areas of land and near waterways. I don't know if they did this on purpose because when the National Corps of Engineers came in to redo the pipeline, they made it with a bigger pipe, but the wall of the pipe is thinner. So you have more pressure because it's bigger, but it doesn't have the strength to hold the capacity. So they were designed to break. And I think they did that on purpose in order to create what we're going into right now, which is the Great Reset and making places unlivable, undesirable to be lived in, like East Palestine, Ohio, like what happened with the Navajo Nation when they let the uranium mining spill go into the Nemus River, which happened long before Flint, Michigan. We got to remember what happened in Flint, Michigan, Detroit, all the auto manufacturing plants that desecrated the water there. Um, there's so many different places, guys. The fires recently in Maui, in Paradise City, in Boulder, Colorado, here in New Mexico with the largest wildfire in U.S. history, the Hermit's Peak fire. So many different things are going on to desecrate land right now and make it unlivable, guys. And the oil spills is part of that. The horrendous weaponized weather that we're going through, that's part of it. The fires and the floods, Hurricane Helene, all of it's been a part of it, guys. It's all about the Great Reset, about depopulating, about world dominance and gaining control through the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the CDC, all those different ABC companies. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Remember, water is life. Every drop counts. Thank you all for standing up and fighting for clean drinking water for all. If you'd like to learn more about how to have clean drinking water in your home, I can point you in a direction with some good filtration systems and things like that. That way you're not drinking tap water anymore and getting away from the fluoride, which is dumbing people down and maybe making people not so encouraged to do anything about anything, right? The fluoride is calcimating people's pineal glands and dumbing people down. So we need to get away from tap water. We need to get away from the chemical onslaught in our own homes. The laundry softeners and the fabric softeners, the fabric sheets, those are cancerous and very harmful, extremely harmful to be breathing in. So switch over to Norwex. There's something better, get involved with the, what is it? The Murphy's soaps or things like that, the natural soaps, whatever you can do. I prefer not to use the soaps because then it's just going in the water anyways. But Norwex has cleaners with natural enzymes and things like that. Maybe I'll leave the link below. You guys have a beautiful day. Look for me here in Albuquerque. If you're here for the Gathering of Nations, you guys be safe out there. Remember, we are right here at border state, so you guys be extremely safe out here because we do have issues with people going missing. The missing, murdered indigenous individuals. It's not just indigenous people. It's just missing, murdered individuals all around. You guys be safe out there. Love and blessings. Water's life. Every drop counts. Remember, you're a water drop in this vast ocean of life. We're all drops in this vast ocean of life. Water's life. Every drop counts. Love and blessings to you all.